The night it happened began with rain striking the asphalt like tiny warnings, and a weary biker named Daniel Cross slowing his engine near an abandoned bus stop, his heart already heavy from a grief he carried for 3 years, the kind of grief that never sleeps and never loosens its grip, because 3 years earlier the world had told him his young son was gone forever after a mysterious fire at a foster facility, and Daniel had learned to survive by riding highways at night where memories could not keep up with him. Yet on that rain-soaked evening everything changed when a thin homeless girl wrapped in an oversized jacket stepped into the glow of his headlight and said something so impossible through trembling breath and hollow eyes that it cracked open a door Daniel had welded shut inside himself, because she insisted his son was not dead. And before this story pulls you deeper into heartbreak, hope, and redemption, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, subscribe to the channel if stories of humanity matter to you, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. And Daniel, soaked and confused, almost rode past her like he had ridden past pain for years, but something in her certainty stopped him, something that felt heavier than coincidence, heavier than madness. And as he listened without interrupting, the girl explained without dramatics or tears that she had lived on the streets since she was 11, that she survived by noticing details people ignored, that months earlier she had been taken in briefly by a group that used abandoned buildings as shelters for runaways, and that in one of those buildings there was a boy with burned scars who screamed at night and whispered a name in his sleep that matched Daniel's son, a name Daniel had not spoken aloud in years. And suddenly the rain felt distant, the streetlights blurred, and Daniel's chest tightened as the past rushed back in fragments. The day officials told him the fire had taken everything, the closed casket, the rushed paperwork, the warning not to dig, the suggestion to move on, and now here was a girl with nothing to gain offering a truth that threatened to undo his fragile balance, and Daniel wrestled with disbelief because hope was more painful than despair. Hope demanded action, and action meant reopening wounds he had sealed with miles of road and noise. Yet the girl did not beg or exaggerate, she simply told him where the building was, what the boy looked like, how he flinched at raised voices and hid food under mattresses, and then she stepped back into the rain as if her role was complete, leaving Daniel alone with a choice. And the next morning he stood in a government office demanding files that no one wanted to retrieve, facing polite resistance and bureaucratic smiles. But Daniel was a man shaped by loss and persistence. And he pushed until a clerk quietly admitted that the fire report had inconsistencies, that 2 children had been unaccounted for during the chaos, that the case had been closed too quickly due to pressure and budget cuts, and with every answer Daniel felt both rage and validation rising together, because his instincts as a father had always told him something was wrong, and now that instinct had a direction. And days later Daniel found the building the girl described, a hollowed-out factory with broken windows like empty eyes, where he met volunteers who tried to protect kids the system forgot, and there he saw him, not a child anymore but not yet a man, thinner than memory but unmistakable in the way he held his shoulders and avoided eye contact, and Daniel's knees nearly gave out as he watched from a distance, afraid to rush forward and shatter something fragile, afraid the boy would vanish if he blinked. And the volunteers explained how the boy had been moved through shelters under a wrong name after the fire, how paperwork errors multiplied, how no one followed up, and how trauma taught him to expect abandonment. And Daniel listened, absorbing the weight of years stolen by neglect, knowing that reclaiming a son would not erase scars or restore time, and the reunion was quiet and raw, not cinematic in the way movies pretend, but real in the way pain recognizes itself, with long silences and cautious glances and a bond that needed rebuilding brick by brick. And Daniel committed to therapy, patience, and consistency, learning to show up even when progress felt invisible, while the homeless girl who started it all refused praise and refused charity, accepting only a warm meal and a promise that Daniel would pay attention to kids like her. And as months passed the boy began to heal, discovering stability, returning to school, learning that anger could soften into trust. And Daniel transformed too, trading endless rides for mornings packed with lunches, trading isolation for advocacy. And he used his biker connections to fund outreach programs, to push for accountability in child services, to make noise where silence had once buried truth. And the girl's life changed as well, with access to counseling and education she chose on her own terms, proving that dignity, not rescue, is what saves people. And if this story has reached you so far and stirred something inside, please like the video and share it with someone who needs a reminder that Compassion can rewrite endings, because engagement helps these stories reach others who may need hope tonight, and as the years unfolded, Daniel's home filled with laughter that felt earned, with memories built slowly and honestly, and on the anniversary of the fire, Daniel and his son planted a tree, not as a symbol of loss but of survival, acknowledging the darkness without letting it define them. And just before this story ends, we ask you to comment below and tell us what moment touched you most, or what you believe saved this family in the end, because your words matter and become part of this shared human experience. And Daniel often returned to that bus stop, not to relive pain but to offer rides, meals, and listening ears, understanding now that sometimes the smallest voice carries the truth that changes everything, and that belief, once whispered in the rain by a girl the world overlooked, became the foundation of a future rebuilt not by miracles, but by courage, persistence, and the simple, radical act of believing another human being